Okay.
See you again. You're missing one, are you not?
No, well, the other guys graduated.
You graduated?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well,
You
I'm gonna
got
say
the full show then.
a few things about Guy, guys. Guy is the godfather of this program. And you'll talk about yourself in a couple of times too. But he is why the ECDM program exists here at Dunwoody. He brought here and a bunch of other very smart bunch of people brought the program to Dunwoody because of the need for this program in the industry. He has been involved in this program more than I've been. I've been 13 years now, and he's been probably 16 or so.
Is that how long it is now? It's 16 years?
It's a 16-year-old program, so yeah, so he has been involved in it. We take what you say seriously all the time. So he's going to talk today, though. He's our speaker for project management. I know next week we're doing presentation. The week after we're taking estimating project management. So he's that will roll you into next week about project management and the track and so forth. With this, it's all yours, and we'll go get you some coffee.
Hey, thanks, Ted. Good to be back in front of you folks again. Yeah, just a couple of comments on this program, and I guess tying myself into it. I graduated from Anoka Technical College back in 1971. Yeah, 71. And Anoka Technical College had a program, 2-year electrical design program, which is essentially very similar to this program. And they had it. I was in the second of their classes, and I got a job at Ellerby, and for years we would hire folks from Anoka Tech every year. It's a great feeder system into the design world, and then what I suppose it's 16 years now, probably about 18 years ago, Anoka Tech dropped the course, and they went through some struggles that were tough for them to maintain the program. They were going from a technical college statewide system to a college sanctioned state system, and they had to kind of revamp all of their curriculum to meet the Minnesota State College accreditation. And some of the smaller programs were just getting killed because it was a big investment to redo it, to meet the state's criteria. Actually, they did go through it, but in the program, when I went through, had over 2,000 hours of class exposure time, direct instructor time. And to meet the state requirements, they had to drop it down to about 1,600. So we lost courses, we lost some meat to the program. And as part of that transition, for some reason, their attendance was dropping way off. It wasn't being promoted by Anoka Tech. Anyway, Anoka Tech dropped the course, and I helped, and I wasn't the first one. Actually, the old instructor from Anoka Tech had called me, Ron Christensen, and he said, "Guy, I think we ought to get this course picked up by Dunwoody." So I met the president of Dunwoody, and I said, I think you guys ought to pick up this course. It's a real cool course. It's sort of like the Wizard of Oz. He says, "Oh, go bring me the broom. We need people willing to be involved with the committee. We need someone willing to help write curriculum. We need money." So I walked away and talked to a few other people. We had meetings and pulled together some of the folks that are still involved. Mike Brayback, I think you saw his presentation. Mike got involved. Some of the contractors got involved, and we formed a committee. We found someone who would help write curriculum. And so we were short of money, and one of our contractors was on the tight with the union, and he talked to, I believe it was the St. Paul Union. He came back and said the union's willing to give 50 grand to Dunwoody to help get this course going. So all of a sudden we had interest, we had a committee, we had someone helping with curriculum, and more importantly, we had someone with some money. So it took about 2 years from that first, "Hey, you guys, let's pick the course up," to finally the first class being offered. But it was a good experience, and I kind of put myself in the middle. So oftentimes, Chad will kind of place me up on kind of the front point as someone helping get this going. And yeah, I did help get it going, but boy, it was a group of people that really made it happen, and the money from the unions really helped make it happen. And here we are, 16 years later. We're going through a low attendance, which is unusual. Since the beginning of this course, it's been maintaining 22 to 24 students.
And in 2005, when I graduated, there was 26, I believe. I mean, the class was full.
That's a good number for kind of filtering into our community, whether it's design firms or contractors or working with reps or working with distributors. That was a good number to absorb every year, and it was almost pretty much 100% employment. If it wasn't 100%, it's because somebody didn't want a job or somebody did something else. But 20 to 24, it's a good number.
Yeah, I think our year, one guy didn't get a job because he didn't want a job.
Probably 10 years ago, it wasn't Chad, it was his predecessor, and maybe the president at the time asked me, thinking of doubling up the course here. They want to do 2 shifts, so maybe they double the output. And my advice was, and not only double it, but go national in their marketing. I said, well, mixed feelings about that. If you go national and you double the output, that may not necessarily help this local group of consultants and contractors and folks who benefit from the students, because if you go national, our share of local students could get hurt, and I don't think we could absorb beyond the 20 to 24. So my suggestion was to not do that, and I don't know if that was the ticket, but they ended up not doing that, which in my mind is a good thing. But the numbers are at right now, obviously we as an industry would like to see those improve, and I think in time would like to see them back in the high teens to low 20s, and that's about the right number. And at that point, there should be 100% employment, and it's a great foundation in our design and construction industry to have quality entry level folks. So that's just a comment on how that all tied together, and my involvement with kind of the origins of Dunwoody. And interesting, we were way on our way to making this class happen. I got a call at my home one evening from the president of Anoka Tech, and he says, well, he had heard that we had a group and we were helping Dunwoody start this class. And he says, we've been talking and we want to bring it back. So could you and your group redirect your efforts and help us bring the class back? And I said, no, sorry, that ship has sailed, which is a little tough having gone through Anoka Tech. But I said, no, Dunwoody's there, willing and supportive, and there's no way we're going to redirect and help you bring this class back to Anoka Tech. I mean, you had it, and it's gone. So. And again, here we are 16 years later, and it's struggling with some low attendance, but it's still an excellent program. Today, I think I'm sort of scheduled to talk about project management, and that's an important aspect in our industry, and it's an important aspect of the class. And again, a little bit of history. What's the name of the class? Is design, construction, and management. And the and management was a requirement of the union to give us the $50,000 seed money to get the course started. It seemed like a fair trade, and I was certainly fine with it. But the union wanted this program to have a management element. Project management is something that you would strive to, so that from their perspective, their electrical contractors, who would also draw from students of this course, in addition to us in the consulting business, they want to make sure that there was a certain amount of management baseline education taking place as a part of this course, and they wanted it in the title. And folks that get into a project, get into a contractor level of employment, could be looking at a project manager position with a contractor. So that's where the term "and management" came. It came at a price, and it came with their support of the program, which is a good thing. So as I talk about project management, my focus will be from the perspective of a consultant engineering firm. And part of what I like to say, up front is don't let the term project management become the driver. I mean, as you consider what you want to do once you leave this program and what your 5-year or 10-year plan might be, keep in mind that different groups and different entities within our industry have a different definition of what a project manager is, what a project manager does. So I do like to caution, I've seen students graduate and they got a job as a project manager with an electrical contractor. Okay, and then some graduate like Nick, he's been with us coming up to 10 years, and he's not a project manager. And so what's going on here? Well, but Nick is an incredibly valuable employee at Michaud Cooley Erickson, and for his years' experience is probably on the cutting edge of things that he's responsible for, things that he does. I think he's more than fairly paid, and I think he's competitively paid, but he's not a project manager, and yet someone who graduated, a year ago, working for a small contractor in town is a project manager. So don't get hung up on the term. Understand what it is that the job is doing. Obviously understand your level of involvement, what skills you need, what skills you've possessed at this point in time, and what the, kind of compare the rewards of whatever it is you might want to do, whether it's with a contractor, with an engineering firm, could work with a rep agency, a lighting rep, gear rep, could work for a distributor, you could be on the back in the shop helping organize the distribution or selling product. A lot of different, it'd be an electrical inspector. I mean, so there's a lot of different jobs that could get filled from folks here coming through this course. And again, I kind of do a little bit of a prelude to what I think project management could be. And again, so my focus is coming from a consulting engineering firm. And I came out of Anoka Tech and worked at Ellerby for 7 years, which then became Ellerby Beckett and then became AECOM. So Ellerby is no longer in existence. But the job roles and responsibilities that I saw at Ellerby are pretty similar to what's at Michaud Cooley. So I think my perspective is fairly typical of a consulting engineering firm, which again is one of the job opportunities you have, and quite honestly the one that we think is the most important.
Yeah, before we started, I just want to get you job titles. Job titles are business card, but with the bank, so it defines what you do and how much you like it. Project management gets all, it's a complicated term that gets used a lot, and a lot of different definitions.
So the best way for me to talk about project management, I think, at Michaud Cooley is maybe to talk through all of our job positions and try to comment. I don't want to read it to you, but just maybe pull out some of the key bullets as I sort of talk through the different job positions that we have at Michaud Cooley that would be relate to an entry-level person coming from an electrical design program, such as what Dunwoody offers. And quite honestly, at least in this whole upper Midwest region of the country, it's the only program that really offers this level of training. And it's the only program that we look to as a technical feeder system into our office. It's just, it's the only one. So I think Kansas, somebody in Kansas had something similar, but we're not seeing students from Kansas knocking on our door in the spring. So really, Dunwoody is the place that it's our go-to school that every year, and oftentimes in the summer, they, as a first year, trying to pick up an intern or part-time, and then hope is that we come together and continue that into a full-time role. Economy has sucked a little bit for the last few years, probably since 2008. We think it's coming back, not as fast as we'd like, but we think it's coming back. But,
right before I bought my house.
I'd say in those 16 years, I gotta believe we hired at least one Dunwoody student every year.
Yeah,
and sometimes 2, and I think our peak year we hired 3. That's when we were extremely busy.
2005, I think we had Chris Burke, Chris Gold, McKee.
We had a late one, so probably technically 4, but not at the same. We didn't have them all there at the same time. But 3 is probably about our peak. So again, it's important for us. Excellent program. So let me start with the coming in as a designer in training, and so it's a entry-level position. The good news for a student coming in is, even though, and I'll talk about it, a requirement is a technical or associate degree in electrical design from an accredited technical college or institution. Bingo, Dunwoody. So for me to hire someone as an entry-level designer in training, we do require a 2-year degree. Years ago, we had an electrical CAD position, and I think it's still on the books. I don't talk about it because I don't hire a CAD position. Our mechanical department still does hire CAD people, so they could go to Minneapolis drafting school and learn CAD, and they could be hired as a CAD person. In our electrical department, we don't do that. I figure anyone coming in as an entry-level person is going to, we expect that they're going to become an electrical designer.
And that's a little different from the rather developers that we talked about earlier on in this semester. The CAD people the guys talking about are guys that do red lines all day, every day. That's all they do, put their headphones on, and just operate on CAD. They're not developing anything like that.
And electrically, in our department, we do not have anyone that we would hire as a CAD drafter fulfilling our CAD position. Now, an entry-level person does CAD drafting. Don't get me wrong. It's our product, is our drawings, and we need people to produce our product. And so as you come in as a designer in training, day 1, guess what? You're probably doing red lines. You're doing CAD work. But we expect that every day, hopefully, there's something that you learn. I would expect if you're doing red lines and you kind of understand what they might be showing you, but it's not quite clear. I expect you to ask the question, well, explain this to me. And more than that, I expect the person you're doing the red lines for to take the time to explain it. We're busy, but the reality is that day-to-day interaction with the person who has 2 years experience and they're giving you some red lines and they could explain it to you. That's our training program. We don't have a formal coursework. We don't have MCE 101. You learn this your first year, 102 you learn this your second year. The training is on the job, truly, and it's working with the people on the project you're working with, and it's you asking for an explanation, and it's whoever you're working with taking the time to teach you. And that's how we transfer knowledge and experience in a consulting engineering firm.
Asking questions and understanding why you're doing the stuff that they're asking you to do is a pretty important step. That's definitely part of how you learn stuff and how you're going to get good at stuff. So if you're not bugging the guy that's giving you red lines every day, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, you can.
Time to learn.
There we go. And again, not to read this, but some of the key points when we hire someone as an entry level, we do want them to be proficient in the use of a computer for design and CAD applications. So again, coming through Dunwoody, you've had that exposure. We would ask people, in your entry level role, we would encourage and in fact even expect you, or maybe more so, give you the opportunity to try to solve, some of the simple design challenges that come up, and but kind of using whatever experience or knowledge you've gained at that time. But we expect you to ask for assistance to make sure that you're going in the right direction, that you've got the right solution, that you're doing it the most cost-effective way. But again, it's part of a process. We have a lot of CAD and computer-generated information and schedules, so part of your entry-level experience will be inputting data. someone more experienced may at that point be doing all the branch circuit design, and as they go filling all the panel schedules, and then they may hand those over to you to say, okay, input all of these panel schedules into our software that does all the manipulations and produces the schedules.
A lot of power tools input, data input, it's one of the big parts of producing documents, is doing all that information, and the power tools and some of it.
And so what I find is that, every day is a learning opportunity, and as you learn, you're sort of in control of what you might be doing 6 months out, 12 months out, because the faster you learn, the more that people realize that you are able to do, okay, I'm able to do branch circuiting and of lighting and devicing, and we've gone through it, gets it. I can give them that task. Once there's that awareness of what you're able to do, people will rely on you. Because they've got other things, they're busy, and so there's this delegation aspect that goes on, and the faster you learn, the more you take on, and the more you take on, the more responsibility you're going to achieve. So in a firm like ours, everyone is sort of in control of, to a large degree, of their own destiny. I think that happens to be a good thing. It's not a set. Although having said there's not a set, there is a set time.
There's a lot of different ways, once you get people, it's not just one thing you do, there's lots of different subgroups inside of the company and different, development opportunities that aren't just, doing plans. And then commissioning, on-site stuff. There's a lot of different ways you can go, and you can kind of, at this time, figure out what you think you might like to start with.
So again, coming in as an entry level, there's no previous experience required. We have no preconceived expectations of you, so you kind of get a pass. Whatever you know, you know. You're not coming in, and you don't have to be fearful that someone's going to expect that you can do this. We'll learn what you can do, and we'll teach you things along the way. But you kind of got a clean sheet of paper day one. So, like my first day at Ellerby, my first task was fold drawings, and he showed me how to fold them.
Sure.
And the guy, it sounded to me like he was really serious, that they had to be all folded exactly the same, and so that the title showed up when you're done, and it was exactly 8.5 by 11. That took me about 4 hours to fold that set of drawings. Great job. Thinking back, I'm going, man, he must have thought I was a doofus to spend that much time folding drawings. So no experience necessary. You come in, and then we would move into a staff designer role. And I'll just jump here for a second. We have some guidelines. We say minimum of 2 years previous experience. To become a staff designer, we expect a technical or associate degree, which if you're already a designer in training, you've qualified for that. You've become expert in the computer, certain design programs, drafting, and a basic understanding of the code. So we look for those things as sort of requirements. But we do have the 2-year guideline to become a staff designer. And I don't think that's usually a problem. There's a lot to learn, and the 2 years goes by pretty quickly. But a staff designer then is someone who has gained some basic knowledge of electrical design. So there's certain things such as branch circuiting, maybe lighting layouts. Maybe you've become proficient in some lighting calcs, and you have a real talent in lighting. Or maybe you've really latched on to power tools, and in addition to doing branch circuiting, you're kind of a power tools geek, and you really get what's going on, putting power risers together and helping to size the feeders, and you understand what the program does. And so, as a staff designer, you could become a resource for those types of exercises. Staff designer would make some basic calculations using our given formulas for the things that I've mentioned. Getting into work on the electrical riser. That's kind of the backbone of our whole project. And I've had people over the years tell me when they're doing a QC, quality control check, they really focus on the riser and the sizing of the equipment, and the basic amperage rating and fault current ratings and feeder sizing, and so a huge amount of quality control time is spent on the riser, because if we get the riser correct,
there's a lot of money in
some of the other areas, there might be some hiccups and some bumps in the road, but if the basic backbone of this building's riser is right, we're not going to have serious problems. Okay, we may have, we might have a recessed light that's going right through a duct. Okay, we'll deal with that in the field. I wish we had caught it, but we didn't. We get the big iron right, other problems will be small by comparison.
So again, as a staff designer, you're working with different folks that that you're part of the team, but you're not necessarily the go-to guy to input schedules. You're not necessarily the one who's going to get the stack of red lines. And in fact, with your couple years experience, you may be doing some redlining. In my day, you'd probably do more redlining, because you would redline and then there was a real clear distinction between redlining on a piece of paper and giving that redline drawing to an entry-level drafter who would, use an eraser and pencils to make the changes. So today, as a staff designer, you may be doing your checking of someone's work on the computer, but instead of redlining it, well, you might redline a PDF, or you might be looking at the document, you might just be making the changes. So that's, at which point are you designing, and at which point are you doing CAD production? In the world today, it does get quite blended.
Yeah,
because
this spot, maybe you're still doing some red lines, but you're asking very good questions back to the person that is redlining and questioning what they're saying, and maybe coming up with better ideas or different ideas, provoking thought with their brain to looking at things a little differently. But you're still kind of doing some of that design work, and maybe you're doing some red lines, but really you're good enough at this point that you've seen enough stuff to be able to shoot holes and so throw things out there.
Some of the tasks, again, you could be selecting equipment, and it'd probably be based on the recommendation of your project manager or someone more senior on the project, but you could have the task of, based on what your understanding of the project is, resourcing the different vendor materials, going through putting the switch gear together, kind of anticipating what we have size-wise and length, height, depth, clearances, starting to take those blocks and sketching them up on a, whether you use whether it's on paper or whether it's in computer, because you sketch now on the computer rather than sketching on bumwad, which we used to do. But coming up with some sketches and really helping to develop some of the concepts, working with others on the design team. Some of your thoughts and sketches, maybe you carry it to a point, and now you kind of tag it off to a more entry-level person and say, hey, this is where we're going, but why don't you work out all these details, and then we'll talk about it. And it's a progression.
Start to some early design meetings too, when you're putting together space planning and working with architects and trying to figure out how big your equipment's going to be to get walls around it, and it's kind of fits into this job too.
I mentioned putting information together that might be incorporated in the specification. As a staff designer, probably not asking you to do a lot of spec writing, but depending on the individual, some people have gotten involved with the specs as a staff designer. Otherwise, probably more involved in helping support the spec by doing some research or doing some gathering information.
That's another branch. I mean, if you show interest in specs, and you start asking questions about specs and trying to get into how they write those, I mean, if you're interested in it, right, I'll let you go.
shop drawing review. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but when we specify a product and it gets bid out through a contractor to vendors, let's say it's a light fixture, and Mike Brayback from Lithonia, they're the successful provider, they'll send shop drawings. So we get catalog cuts with any particular notes as to making sure that it meets our drawings and specification. So we get shop drawings on the products that the contractor intends to provide. We have to review and check them. So that's a task that a staff designer is typically qualified and has enough experience to take the shop drawings, compare them against the drawings and specifications, and kind of check off that yes, it has, you know, it's this gauge of metal and it's this percent reflectance and it has this level of efficiency. That's what the spec called. So you kind of go through and compare what we're getting to what we asked for, and then review that with the senior designer or the project manager, and then send those off back to the contractor, who sends them off to the vendor, who sends them off to the factory, and then they build it and ship it to the job site. So shop drawings is a big part of the process that a staff designer is someone who would likely get involved with that. Certain amount of code research, even as a staff designer, certain amount of interface with the code authorities. My projects, there's always something that seems a little bit unique, and I always insisted that we at least talk to our electrical inspector early on and have a decent question, establish some sort of rapport with the electrical inspector, even if it's relatively minor, just because at some point you might have a more serious issue, and it's nice to get to have gotten to know the electrical inspector and for them to know that you're really trying to do the right thing, rather than at some point down the road an issue comes up and you're instantly at opposite ends of a debate. But staff designer, again, could oftentimes be involved and do some of that code research. And so I talked about the knowledge and experience, and again, 2 years. So then at Rashad, the next role would be a project designer. And then I'll just follow my pattern here. I'll kind of jump right here for a second.
I'm a product designer.
He made it.
I've taken these 3 steps. So I started with designer training, staff.
So we say 8 years. Did you hold you back for 8 years? I'm trying to remember. A little early? Okay. We have some exceptions to the rule. And that we have to have that. But it's a guideline. And but there are times when we say, golly, it's not 8 years. But in my opinion, when we have these debates, whether we should promote or not promote, we look at our guidelines, but I say, well, what are they doing? I mean, if they're doing all these tasks proficiently that we require of a project designer, why would we not promote this person to a project designer? So, but if we're going to go earlier than 8 years, I'm pretty strict personally, and say, well, they picked up a spec once, they're proficient in working with spec. These other things they've done, but it says a product designer should be familiar with these things. And I don't want to promote someone because they got these 4 spikes of talent, but they have these 2 areas of weakness. But if I promote them as a project designer, other project managers, as they staff their team, have an expectation of what a project designer can do. And you don't want to have them show up with an asterisk when they're really strong here, but they really haven't had any experience yet here. But that's sometimes tough to work with. So, but clearly, when someone has accomplished the different tasks and duties, I'm all for promoting. But it works the other way too. 8 years doesn't mean you get to be a project designer, and that's happened probably more than going early. Is people show up at their annual reviews and say, I have 8 years, I want to be a project designer. So we go through this list. Do you provide schematic design information to your project manager? Do you do preliminary electrical room sizing and investigate the requirements? Yes, so what about assisting the project manager in coming up with some task lists of what needs to be done to put this project together? Because a project designer works hand in hand with the
project manager. And so have you gone through all of the lighting and the power and all the special systems and fire alarm and security and help develop this list of things that we have to do for the different phases of our project and kind of help the project manager get the right resource or designer or CAD person working with us. I've never done that. Okay. Have you incorporated design concepts, from our schematic design, which is our first phase of the project. And then once the schematic design is done, that's the brainstorm session when all ideas are floated out there. We meet with our client and we understand their needs, and we may have a number of high-level options for different requirements, lighting solutions, power distribution solutions, generator versus battery lights. I mean, all sorts of things that get thrown out there in the schematic design phase. And we meet with our client, we make some decisions. And then we move into what we call the design development phase, where we've taken the concepts and we've narrowed them down, and we try to make them fit into the building. Okay, we've decided it's going to be a medium voltage distribution with in-house transformers. So in my design development, I got to kind of space plan how much room do I need for my medium voltage gear and my big power transformers and my 480 gear and my gen sets. I've got to lay this out still conceptually. It's design development. But we'll just erase it. Chad, I don't think he needs it. So we're working on design development. And again, getting the design, we're kind of demonstrating that here's what we need, here's what fits, here's what works. That impacts the architect because they've got to create these big spaces for our gear. It affects the structural engineer because I'm telling them, this battery plant for this UPS equipment, is 80,000 pounds, by the way. So they're thinking about how to structure it. Other equipment that has weight. We're interfacing with our mechanical counterparts because we have to understand what they're doing so we can bring blocks of power to the mechanical equipment room to support all of the mechanical equipment needs. So design development, you're working with big blocks of information, trying to make it fit within a design. And at the end of the design development, again, meeting with the client, everybody's agreeing to things. Well, then we move into the contract document phase from our end, and then it's just elbows and eyes to the grind, nose to the grindstone, I guess. It's production. I mean, we are working out all the details, and hopefully we're not changing ideas every day. I mean, we're in construction document phase. We're just putting it together and coming up with a set of drawings.
When decisions are made at that point, then you know what the final product is going to be when you go make it.
Right. And so my project designers are key people that help in each of those phases.
At this point, you're definitely going to meetings. You're probably going to construction meetings during construction. You're going to do punch lists. You're going to have a lot of interaction with electricians.
I talk about, I can use this and you know where I'm thinking rather than guessing. So, you're definitely producing sketches of the different systems and the design and working it through. 10:30, I could be, we'll hit 10:30. So, tremendous amount of responsibility, coordination, picking details, documenting existing conditions, a lot of field work. And my project designer has the experience and the knowledge to be the one to go out and take a look at some switchgear and to understand what they're looking at and to say, this is a power breaker board with these types of breakers and this is the information I need. Staff designer, they can go out and get the basics, but they may come back and you say, well, what was the fault curve? Well, I didn't think of that. Or what was it? Oh, gosh, I didn't look. Project designer, I would know that they would go and extract whatever they needed to know when they come back, and we can fold this existing switchboard into our new project design. Is it going to be adequate or not adequate? Does it have capacity or not? Is it expandable or not? Or is it antiquated and we should just plan to just throw it away, start new over here? So a lot of efforts that, again, the project designer gets involved with. Nick mentioned that, well, he mentioned punch list, definitely involved with punch list, which is our final inspection, we call it a punch list. Editing spec, definitely a responsibility of a project designer. Preparing change orders, addendums, we rarely see any of those, but other firms do, I understand. No, it's the reality of life. Sometimes we get involved with estimating, and I think the exposure you have to estimating is a good thing. We estimate differently than contractors. We're more conceptual in our estimates, and our guys couldn't build an assembly if they had to. We don't know what McCormick is. We've never seen the software. But we have seen RS means, and I don't know if you even exposed them to RS means, where it's kind of a national group that comes up with more global prices for an installed outlet that kind of already makes it, they probably behind the scenes do their own assembly work. So we're bigger picture estimates. We're not trying to win a bid, but we're trying to say this project value is probably about thus. Yeah. So we have to understand it. We have to kind of be able to be in the ballpark, but we're not winning a project by being the right low bid, or losing our shirt being the wrong low bid. So that's not what we're into.
And Dave Karski was here, and he talked about a lot of detail versus not detail. So it's really nice.
You're lucky we had Ryan had a party last week, because I ran into Dave and I said, "So you're all set for next week?" "Oh gosh, it's next week."
Yeah.
Yes, it's next week.
Yeah,
Which,
thank you for
yeah.
being here. Great job.
Good. I've known
Quality news statements.
Dave and I worked together at LRB back in the early 70s, so I've known him for a couple of years. Let me move right into, I'm going to go high level at Mashad Cooley. As a project designer, there's kind of a fork in the road, and we would kind of together with the individual, and Nick will be having these conversations with his group leader and others. What does Nick want to do when he moves beyond project designer? We've given a path where you could be a senior designer. So your day-to-day stuff is kind of sort of similar to what you've been doing as a project designer, but you're likely becoming more of an expert, becoming more of a design guru. Maybe you're one of our local power tools gurus, and you really focus on power distribution systems that are very large and complex. And on a big project, a project manager is going to say, "I got to have Nick as my senior designer doing all of this heavy power stuff, because he gets it. He's one of our in-house experts." So we give a career path to be a senior person. And that senior person is recognized for the value that they bring to Mashad Cooley. They're also, in my opinion, an opportunity to be fairly compensated as a expert in the field and as a senior person at Mashad, and a contributor to our process. So we try to give someone a chance. I think what it says here somewhere noted. Yeah. This position is intended for the technical expert who does not desire full-time project management responsibility. So it's an expert. You've been exposed to everything you're going to do as a project designer, but now you're going to even you're going to notch it up again. And we offer that opportunity. The responsibilities are quite similar to a project designer, but you become a bit more expert. So I'm going to rifle through those. And the other career path then, finally, talking about project management, at Mashad Cooley, is the role of project manager. And the project manager is responsible for the overall supervision of those projects, which are assigned to him or her, and they oversee the entire design process, and they assure the project conforms to the contractual agreements that the firm's made and the project's completed within the allowed time and within budget. So, okay, sounds like a big part of a project manager's role is managing the project, and that's absolutely true. And that is their number one responsibility, is to get the project done on time, on budget, and a quality job. So at Mashad Cooley, which is why it takes a long time to become a project manager, our project managers have gone through all of the various design phases of the entry level, the staff design, the project design. So they've all of everything that it takes to put the project together. They've done it, and they're experts at putting a project together. But now we're asking them to have more involvement from the contractual aspects of the project, staffing of the project, managing the staffing of the project, making sure that staffing the project to get it done has the same outcome as staffing the project to get it done with a profit. So, there's an expectation that, hey, to survive, we have to get these jobs done right, on budget, on time, but we have to have profit or the company's just going to dissolve. So there's things involved with the project management. They may receive the project from our principals, which are the owners, anyway, of the company. They get involved with the proposal. So we get an opportunity to propose on a project. Oftentimes from an architect, project manager may sit down with one of the company owners, and they'll kind of work it up, come up with a fee, what our scope is, schedules that we would agree to, put together the proposal. Here's what we would propose to do. Oftentimes we compete with some of our competitors in town. We win the job, so the PM, project manager, participates in client interaction, both initial presentation, the contract, kind of getting the nuts and bolts of the requirements of the project. The project manager will start to develop the project task list, budget, schedules, selection of our team. He'll put together the team, he or she, assigning project tasks, budget, schedules. Now, some of the things that I've kind of rifled off here came up earlier as a project designer, and our project manager will rely heavily on a project designer. In fact, we have a level of responsibility at Mashad Cooley. We call it a project leader. It's not a position, but it's a responsibility. Other firms call them job captains. So a job captain at LRB is the same as a project leader at Mashad Cooley. You're likely a project designer, maybe a senior designer, but you're sort of the right-hand person to the project manager, and you will help in many of these areas. So someone serving as a project leader, and Nick has served as project leader on projects, it just sort of, sometimes it's an awareness that I'm serving the role as a project leader. We don't come up with some big fanfare, but it's a responsibility that allows you to learn many of the things that a project manager does without being a project manager. So we will never appoint someone as a project manager and say, okay, now you got to sit down and learn these things. I mentioned before that I will promote someone when I'm convinced that they do all the responsibilities. That's even more of a focus for me if we're talking about promoting a project manager. Say, okay, are they doing the things that we expect a project manager to do? And it's one position that I will fight to avoid promoting someone as a project manager, and then we have to wait for 3 years for them to learn how to do it. Just tell them, let's go through this. Check off the things we feel that they're doing proficiently. Identify the things that we think they have to work on. And let's try to work on those. Maybe what we can do is help find an experience that will let them fill in the areas that they just are a little weak in, so that 2 years out, when we sit down, we can check off the remaining things. By golly, yes, you're definitely a proficient project manager. We're going to promote you to a project manager. So, that's why at the beginning of my little talk, I mentioned the difference in expectations of project managers. I think at Mashad Cooley, in particular, the project managers basically make or break the success of a project, which makes or breaks the success of Mashad Cooley Erickson. So it's an incredibly important role. It takes, I think, as it says, 8 to 12 years to become a project manager. I'm sorry, 10 years, 8 to 10 years. 8 years if you come through the bachelor degree program, 10 years if you come through technical. Again, these are guidelines. but it's probably represents reality of what it likely takes to become a project manager. Mashad Cooley Erickson is something you might think about. The door is open to be a project manager as a technical person. We've given this dual path. Give myself some clear paper here. So I've been talking about the designer and training, and then talking about the staff designer, and then talking about the project designer, and then at some point, senior designer. Well, then one could also, can't have two, can you? Pick a PM, sort of our career path. Over here, we have a engineer in training, and then we have a staff engineer, and then we have a project engineer. That's a D, not a P. And then senior project engineer, and then they could go to PM. That's really how we're structured. And not everybody coming up on either side is going to be a PM. And it's drawn this way, and it's perceived to be this way. Is a project manager, are all project managers and all senior people exactly equal in terms of, it depends on how you evaluate that. I think it's tough to say that a project manager with a lot of large projects, it probably has more accountability and responsibility with the company. So one might argue that role could be considered, some sort of higher level. All right, you could argue that. But at the same time, we've given senior positions for designers and engineers so that you have an opportunity to succeed and to grow in the company and to be compensated well and to be recognized for your expertise and to be given a career path where you can enjoy what you're doing, which might be designing and engineering, and this person can enjoy what they've decided to do, which is managing people, managing projects, managing processes, and it becomes a lot less engineering is a reality. So that's kind of my overview. If there's one or two important questions, otherwise I know you want to move into your. Yeah. So any questions on my talk about project management?
You guys have any questions for Guy or anything you just? So like I said, Michelle, you guys have hired, I would say probably tens of students over almost 100 students over the years from this program. So they're big employers. At one time, if you stay in this career, you will work for Michelle at one time or another.
Well represented today.
So we're so proud to have this relationship with Michelle Erickson.
We're glad to be
lucky too.
Well, thank you. We're glad to be here. We're glad that the program is surviving. We're looking forward to it even getting stronger, but of course we're looking forward to our economy being stronger so that we can take advantage. So the dip in attendance luckily matched the economic downturn because from 2008 to we were, I think at some peak 128 people, or we were down to about 100. I think we're back up to 108. So we're not as strong as we used to be, and 108 that are there now aren't as busy as the 128 used to be. Back when we were 128, we were actually feeling we were 15 to 18 people short from when we were 128. But we couldn't find anybody anywhere. There was just nobody to be hired anywhere. And so we thought we were 15 people short at 128. So then when the economy tanked, we had 15 people of fluff there for that first year. Then it kept going. So.
That's awesome.
All right,
So
thanks.
thank you for your.
I have a memory stick if you want to plug this in. It's just a little.
Yeah, we always, I've always been there. We never had a, I don't know if we should, right, okay? All right, all this good stuff.
Do we want to be out of the light?
You want the light? You want the light? Want it next to us?
No, you can't. Is it too much
The
glare?
light should shine on
there?
on Chad. The light. Should...
I need a little bit more light. Get you. There you go. Yeah. There you go. And you can just click.
Just leave it down here. Okay. Let me talk a little bit about Mashad Cooley Erickson. My name's Guy Herr. I'm a principal with Mashad Cooley. And I've been with Mashad Cooley coming up to 36 years here in April, so I've been there for a while. Mashad Cooley Erickson is a consulting engineering firm. We're downtown Minneapolis. We're mechanical, electrical, along with a few other specialty services. So let me try to just be brief. The firm was established in '86. We've got 110 people in the firm. LEED is a big deal. If you've not heard of LEED, it's an energy program that a lot of buildings are complying with LEED, and we have a lot of LEED professionals. I mentioned mechanical, electrical, but we have some specialists in fire protection, lighting design, technology, so the voice data, security, fire alarm, nurse call, and then hands-on commissioning is some of the services that we provide. The markets and some of the projects that we've been involved with. We get involved with a lot of higher education work. We've done projects for the U of M and other facilities, government work. This is I think the Anderson building in St. Paul, I believe. Healthcare. We do a lot of healthcare work in town. Science technology, which would include Medtronic, Boston Scientific, St. Jude Medical, Coloplast. So we're heavily involved in the science technology, corporate work. Aviation, we do a tremendous amount of work. In fact, we're on our second 6-year contract with MAC, which is virtually all of the design work for the airport at Humphrey and Lindbergh terminals, or it used to be Humphrey and Lindbergh. We do the design work for the MAC, and that's been very good work. A couple of projects that we're involved with in the medical side. Again, some of the hospital work that we get involved with. St. Jude Medical, I mentioned Boston Scientific. Valspar, imagine the paint company, so had some color on their activity. Some of the labs, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, which is very interesting. Ecolab, which is a cleaning company, but a lot of their cleaning material is heavy in research and development for the products that they're involved with. Again, St. Jude Medical, Microsoft, Purina. Trying to just give you a sense of the project work, and I don't want to tie up all my time here with this about Mashad. Guthrie Theater was a very interesting project. The architect was a French architect. Quite an unusual project. St. Jude Med, General Mills. So a lot of the big companies that you hear about in town, they're our clients, and we do work for those folks. A little bit about, again, quality at Mashad, some of our process, some of our 3D modeling. These are some of you guys in a design program. I get a kick out of that. That's a Revit model of some piping in a data center with some heat exchangers. So kind of interesting and fun to do that in the design and production process. So that's a little bit about Mashad Cooley. And so we are a consulting engineering firm, and as such, there are other consulting engineering firms in the Twin City area. And I just wanted to talk maybe high level about how the folks in the ECDM program and perhaps even some of you folks in the electrician program, if you give thought to what do you want to do 5-10 years out,
we would hire entry-level people, and we have hired entry-level people for the last 16 years from the ECDM program. And that's been almost our only technical feeder system into Mashad Cooley Arts. So we've hired at least one, and I think we've peaked out at about 2 or 3 on an annual basis of students from this program. And I think I've been involved in the tech committee for the ECDM since the beginning. And I don't know that we can claim exactly 100% employment, but I think it's so close that it could be a claim for 100% employment. Back when the program was started, we were looking at 20 to 24 students per year, and those students were easily absorbed into our industry without a problem. And so the fact that we're 4 or 5 this year is troubling for us, because we need more students to get into our industry so that we have the entry-level technical people that can grow into electrical designers. And I just went through this with the second-year folks on a little PM talk. We start as a designer in training with us, you move into a staff designer, progress into a project designer, and then at that point make a career decision to become a senior designer, staying technical, stay involved with the design, the engineering aspect of your career, become an expert at Mashad, or choose to get into project management, where you're kind of letting go of some of the detailed engineering, but you're dealing with people, you're dealing with contracts, you're dealing with schedules, you're dealing with budgets, you're dealing with quality control. Those are the decisions and the career paths that we have available at Mashad Cooley. Now, in fairness to our industry, which I also am concerned about, there's opportunities with electrical contractors. Electrical contractors will use electrical designers. A lot of the contractors in town do what we call design build. They design it and build it, and it's a reality. At first I didn't necessarily like it, but a lot of our bigger contractors who get bigger projects, they're calling Mashad Cooley and they're hiring us to be on their design build team. So they'll design build some of the smaller projects or some of their more routine projects, and I'm going, okay, that's okay, I don't care about that. But if they have a project with some real meat to it and they're hiring me directly to be on their design build team, I'm going, all right, this works well. So we can be part of design build. So I don't just like design build, I just want to be a part of design build. And it happens. The Hunts, the Parsons, the ERCs, the Egans, kind of the bigger guys in town have hired us to be part of their design build process. So you could be a designer directly with a contractor, you could, other opportunities. There's rep agencies in town, the lighting reps, the switchgear reps. They're hiring from the ECDM program, so you can get into maybe becoming expert on lighting or expert on switchgear and meeting with contractors and designers and helping promote gear. And other avenues would be electrical inspector. You could work for you could become an electrical inspector, or you could work for a distributor in town and become a kind of a equipment expert and helping contractors purchase or buy and obtain the gear they need for the project. So the career opportunities are pretty wide-fold. Obviously, my interest is in the design world because we're a consulting firm, but recognizing that contractors, inspectors, and distributors and gear reps all could use people, and they all do draw from the ECDM program. So that was really, I think, the message I wanted when Chad asked me to just have a few words. Your first year, what we'd like to do typically is hire usually 1, occasionally 2 interns for the summer, and then we like those interns to work part-time as you're becoming a second-year student. We try to limit those hours to 16 to 20, usually no more than 20, trying to make it closer to 16. We want your focus to be school and not work, so we don't believe in letting you have a full-time job and go to school, so we'll limit those hours. But working part-time the second year, and then hopefully that would turn into full-time employment with Mashad if presuming it's a great experience. And it usually is. That's a career path and opportunity through us.
questions?
So the internship in the summer is a full-time,
Summer would be full-time.
summer's full-time.
Full-time without benefits is just a full-time, part-time, I think it's,
So
you know,
full-time, but it is a paid
kind of a
internship,
40-hour part-time job because there's no benefits involved, but it's 40 hours of work.
but it's paid.
It's paid. Yes,
What-
it's a
what do you-
paid.
What do you start off at then?
What do we start off? What might we pay this year? You know, I'd have to maybe double
Rough
check.
estimate.
Rough estimate, it's probably in the 13 to maybe 15.
I can jump too, because there are other internships, you know, like for instance, between 11 and 14.
That area.
Yeah, we'll match them.
Yeah, there are other internships, but you should have typically the top two. Sorry.
Yeah, 14 is probably the right number.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, I think the economy hit us a little bit, so
Yeah.
salaries sort of kind of had a little bit of a wiggle in it, so.
When you graduate, guys, we collected, you know, what the designers, right, last year it was $14 an hour when you graduate to full-time. So 14 was the minimum, 19 was the average, 25 was the maximum. So I'll give you guys the page. And, you know, some people have, you know, depending what you go on.
Right.
Right.
My take, the guy who got 25, his dad owns the contracting shop. So I discount the top and I discount the bottom. And we're at the high end of the median. So 20 grand, or 20, not 20 grand, 20 bucks is probably a good target.
I had a German electrician in our class. He had a German license. He already went to school to be an electrician, went to work, became a journeyman, came back to go back to the office. Now with his German license, 2 years as an electrician, 2 years as and 1 year as a designer, they valued him and they gave him 25. So that's, I mean, that's the unusual to get that. So you're also right.
And I fully recognize if someone has worked a career as an electrician and they've come to us through this program, it's kind of a retraining. Oh, absolutely, there's more value there because there's more knowledge there and experience. And yeah, we would clearly treat them as a different, we almost treat them as an experienced
Yeah, that's how they
level. But when we talk out of the program, it's more as an entry level, where you're coming to us with 2 years of schooling without any expectation on our part that you can do anything. We expect you'll be able to do something, but we're going to start teaching and figuring out what you know and capitalizing on that from day one. Yeah.
when's, just who should we contact and when should we contact to be looking to start the summer?
You know, I'll leave some cards here just to make sure that it gets to the right people. Yeah, it used to always go through me, but I can be the guy to steer it to the right direction.
How about if I forward your information to the students?
That's
who are
fine.
interested? Because I know the ECDM.
Yeah.
So anybody who's interested, leave some cards to others, ECDM.
Yeah.
And guys, if you have you on, I'll give you his information for it.
I can leave a few cards. If you know, people want more, you can just scan it or copy it and send out as an email or something. Yes, sir.
What about the job description as far as like the summer internship? Like what sort of things would we be doing?
Grunt work. No. It would be, it's entry-level work. It would be, you know, our product is our CAD drawing. So for us, having CAD skills is a good thing. And I think they've tried to work some CAD into the first year. Because when we bring you in as an intern, our product being a CAD drawing, and the more experienced people having a chance to maybe mark up some drawings and giving it to you as an intern saying, make these changes in the CAD file, knowing CAD is important. It's difficult for us to have someone who's never opened up AutoCAD of any sort, or Revit, whatever you're using, and trust me, I can't. But we need someone who we typically, and this is why we draw from this program, is we've been able to get first-year students that have enough CAD interface or exposure that they can come in and move outlets or do some lighting changes based on either a sketch or based on some direction. They say, hey, you know, we laid this out with 2x2s and the owner wants 2x4s, so change them all to 2x4s. And so it'll be doing things under the direction of oftentimes someone who went through the program a year ago or 2 years ago. But it's mostly production work.
it's CAD work. Occasionally, we'll do things like, gosh, I wish someone could organize our catalog library. Okay, nobody has time. So you might spend a few days doing a task like that. But for the most part, it's actual hands-on project work, and your time will be tracked on that project on our electronic time card, and your time would be, billed against that project's fee. So I mean, you're doing productive work day one, but it's entry-level work, and so we're not going to bring you in and say, okay, come up with a lighting solution for this auditorium. No, we're not going to do that. But we may say, here's a sketch of the lighting for this auditorium. Could you try to put it into the CAD file? And then someone else may mark up some circuiting. They didn't have time to do it on CAD. Say, could you add the circuiting to this? Or, here's someone worked on the riser, the one-line diagram, and here's some changes to it. Could you get in and make these changes? So, but it is production work. But again, entry. But there's opportunities to learn along the way because, you've had 1 year, you've got some basic knowledge of the electrical field, and I like it when people just doing what might seem to be routine work ask questions. I like that, and I expect the people that they're doing the work for to take the time to answer the questions, because that's our formal training program at Washad Cooley, is the one-on-one interaction throughout your career. You're always working with the person who's just gone through what you're going through, and they're obligated to help bring you along, but you're obligated to ask the right questions or to let people know what you need. So a lot can be learned at that summer intern. It's not just filler work. It's not just helping us rearrange desks. And it won't be the library, because we've made a decision to disband our catalog library. I knew this day would come, but I just saw the email last week. We're going to get rid of all of our catalogs, hundreds of catalogs, and we're going 100% website. You want to look at Square D switchgear, go to their website. It's current information. You go to our library and pull down the Square D catalog, and you shake the dust off of it, and here's a breaker that hasn't been made in 5 years. Well, I'm going to specify that one. So we're getting rid of so you don't have to worry about organizing our library. We're going to get rid of it. So you may have to haul boxes of books out, but other than that. Questions?
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. You want to save a copy, or I'll just pull it? I don't care.
I can save a copy if you're okay with this one. I'll grab a copy right here.
Okay.
And you're good, ready to take it out. Yep.